So, in the last lecture, we had tried to explain how the digital signal processing systems work and what are the design considerations in those systems. Means again I repeat that we have Xn, we have Hn, and we obtain Yn. Ultimately, as it is very clear that once you are able to understand where Yn is convolution of Xn and Hn, but if Hn is infinitely long, then you cannot express it as convolution because it would be infinite sum. In cases where Hn is infinitely long, it is possible to express Yn as weighted sum of few previous current and few previous input and few previous outputs. So the output Yn can be expressed as weighted sum of current and past inputs or weighted sum of current and past outputs. Now again the main question which comes into picture is Xn we are having with us as input. It undergoes from a system and translates into Y. So what exactly is being done? For what purpose we are doing all these things? Means for what means it is very simple question. A student gets admission to an engineering college. He undergoes the courses of study in his 4 years and passes out as a graduate engineer. So Xn, that is student input, Yn is the graduate engineer, and in these 4 years what he undergoes is system Hn. Then output depends upon what Xn is and what system is. Different students admitted to the same college come out to be different class of engineer, graduate engineers, and the students of similar caliber getting admitted to different colleges also come out to be different class of graduate engineers. Is it clear? So output is depending upon input and system. Now if a question is asked, what undergoes in this engineering college? That is a system. What it does, it tries to enhance some properties of an individual. It tries to suppress or remove some unwanted things of an individual and brings it as a graduate engineer. Right? So similarly now the question arises, what do we mean by properties of a student? Similarly, what Xn is available? Xn is raw data. A student comes, gets admitted, he writes his name, other information, that is raw data. By looking at that data, you can't get any idea about the student. But some marks, they give some features. Some other tests here to understand what kind of features he possesses, we have to extract the features. So from this year onwards, we are coming up with a unique concept that for those who are, physics and maths is considered to be very basis for engineering. Therefore, those who are admitted in the first year, you will find yourself to be unfortunate or fortunate, that time will decide. For those who would be admitted to the first year from this year onwards, for them, based on their 10th science and maths mark, based on their 12th HSC physics and HSC maths marks, and their CET physics and CET maths marks, a few students would be handpicked who need additional free coaching for physics and maths, and that primer would be delivered in first few days. So obtaining these marks, these are some properties, these are some features. Similarly, Xn, if we look at Xn, what it will look like? It will look like samples. So mere looking at the samples, merely a student comes, mere looking at the samples means an engineering college is there and it wants to transform the student. So the student comes and the person who is supposed to transform simply looks at the student, that's all. Even if he looks for hours together, there is no possibility by which some properties can be known. Similarly, you can look at xn. Xn means what? A combination. Xn, when we are having, for n we are having index range, maybe 0 till infinity, something minus infinity till plus infinity, or some finite range. So, this is just a mapping. We are with us all values of xn's, right? Then, a very simple question that arises, that is, merely by looking in this way,
एनडीच्या प्रॅक्टिकलला कोण आहे आपल्याला काय एनडीच्या प्रॅक्टिकलला
बीबीबी ते बसवणार
तिथं पण तुझ्याकडनं काही एक्सपेक्ट आले तुला माहीत नाही वाटलं
अरे आयटम पाहिजे
ह्यासारखी SUP CP सारखी
ते पण शूटिंग ते
so
पण
if
शूट झालं
you have an expert eye, then an expert eye can also recollect something merely by looking at it, but that is a subjective phenomenon. An expert person who is well conversant with these signal processing techniques can look and identify the properties, but that is not a good way. Therefore, there are some systematic ways with which various properties of the signal, discrete signal xn, can be identified. And in discrete thing, one very useful fact is there for us is that system is also a sequence. In analog thing that was not there. In analog thing, even though system transfer function ht was also a time function, but its understanding was not so easy. But in digital, xn is array of numbers, hn is also an array of numbers, and yn is also an array of numbers. So for all these, we can apply the same rules to extract the properties. So what we now are intending to study, in what way the system is working on the input in order to modify something. It is what? Signal processing. It is signal processing. So first and simple signal processing would be no processing. So that is y is equal to xn. So for what would be hn for that? Delta n. If hn is delta n, yn becomes xn. Just like the question answer book writing the question paper. Then there is one more. Yn is equal to 2xn. It's meaningful, but not to that extent. Just like a student writing the question twice. The same question paper is there, question 1a. He writes question 1a and again question 1b. Right? So yn is equal to 2xn or yn is equal to kxn, where k is a constant. Again, that way not major impact. Then yn equal to 0, yn equal to 3, it is irrespective of xn, or yn equal to random. So all these we are not considering. These really do not process the signal. I can say that all these systems do not process the signal the way we are thinking of. Right? Is it clear? A constant multiplier or identity system or zero system or constant system or random system, these are not in a real sense signal processing systems. These are something else. Means at least two inputs must be there for considering the current output. What is happening? In case of identity system, what we have? Only current input is there. Right? For zero system, no input is there. For even system with some gain, only current input is there. So in all these, no real processing occurs. The question now is, if in obtaining current Yn, at least two inputs, if they are considered, then definitely there will be processing. Definitely there will be processing. And the first and simple is averaging. Yn is equal to xn plus xn minus 1. The simple most discrete time signal processing system which we can think of is an averaging, or if we divide by 2 it will be average, it will be summing them. Yn is equal to xn plus xn minus 1, or to be more particular, Yn is equal to xn plus xn minus 1 upon 2. So it's averager. So this is simple signal processing system where the current output is simple average of current and past input. So what this system will do? This system will obviously average out the changes in the input. It will average out the changes in the input. Then, to know it very clearly, there are various ways which we have learned last year only, by which I can analyze the signal. What will I analyze? I want to analyze xn. Means first of all, I have with me xn for all n's. As yesterday I had told, either I should have finite xn if it is random, or I should have a deterministic function if it is for infinite. So I have xn with me. I want to analyze. What do you mean analyze? You are analyzing. Analyze means what one can anybody in simple words explain the meaning of analyzing or analysis? Analysis is a word about which we have pseudo understanding. Are you getting me? We have been we claim that we are well conversant with the word analysis. He is analyzing, means even he is not knowing what he is doing.
एक नंबर जिक्तू बाबा
So what can be the simple meaning of analysis? Analyze, the process to analyze.
Find the properties or check the test the properties.
टेक्निकल सांगायला सिंपल
To find the properties, maybe the one meaning which can be best fit in this case, but in general meaning of analyze, to draw the inference. We can generalize it in the sense that to look in different ways so as to draw some meaningful information. Then different analysis tools we have learned last year. Which are those? Different analysis tools we have learned last year. What are those tools? When we have xn, we have learned different analysis tools. What those are? By which we can get an idea of xn. For xn I am talking about. So at least you should, when you answer, at least you should know the inhibit list. That Laplace transform cannot be applied for xn. Even if you know this, it's alright. So we have DTFT, we have Z transform, and we have DFT. All these three things you can apply for xn. So of that, Z transform is the first, then we go to DTFT, and then we go to DFT if some requirements are satisfied. What are the requirements to have DFT? No, HN is different. Only XN. When we have XN, we can find Z transform, we can find DTFT, we can find DFT. For any XN, we can find all these three transforms.
Region of convergence should lie on unit surface.
Let us try to simplify. There is one XN for which DTFT exists. There is one XN for which DTFT exists. Does it mean that its DFT can be found? There is XN for which DTFT exists. Does it imply that DTFT from DTFT you can find DFT? Does it imply that from DTFT you can find DFT? Yes or no? There is one XN for which DTFT exists. That is X of omega. From X of omega, can you find X of k always? Yes or no? From X of omega, can you always find X of k? Obviously yes, because it is just sampling. But the question doesn't mean that. Can we find from DTFT, can we find DFT in such a manner that from DFT also we can get it back? Whether DTFT to DFT transformation is invertible. From DTFT we can find DFT by sampling. So knowing DTFT I can know DFT. But knowing DFT, can I know DTFT? Knowing DTFT I can know DFT. But whether its contrast is true. DTFT is a discrete function or continuous function?
Continuous. Continuous.
DTFT is a continuous function of omega. So I sample it at 2 pi upon k. Then I get DFT. DFT can be how many point DFT? I can have 1 point DFT, I can only sample once. I can have 2 point DFT, like that. I can have 4 point DFT, 3 point DFT also. But usually I don't go for. So I can in general have capital N point DFT. My question is, from DFT can you get DTFT back? Exactly. Nobody? Sampling of DTFT giving rise to DFT is invertible if and only if the DTFT corresponds to a finite length sequence and the number of points for which we are sampling is at least equal to the number of finite points of the sequence. DTFT can be found out for both sequences, finite as well as infinite. Anyway, there is need of brushing up that you will be able to do by using the video lectures tomorrow and day after. So, first we go for Z transform. First we go for Z transform. So, we now try to look the things differently. So, what is the formula for Z transform? Xz is equal to summation of xn z raised to minus n and n starting from.
0 to infinity.
Is it right? So by looking at Z transform, what kind of conclusion you can draw? By looking at Z transform of a particular discrete time sequence, is it possible for you to draw some conclusion? Then DTFT is computing of Z transform on DTFT is what? Z transform on
Z equal to e raised to j omega.
unit circle, right? So that we find. So by looking at DTFT, what information we get, and then DTFT, discrete time Fourier transform. I suppose that you might have got some idea, provides us the information about the frequency contains. DTFT provides us the information about frequency contains in Xn. DTFT of Xn is a continuous function. It exists between minus pi to pi. DTFT of Xn is a continuous function. It exists between minus pi to pi. Suppose if my Xn is a quite long sequence, in that case, we may find DTFT for few known sequences. By finding DTFT for few known sequences, you should be able to be in a position to understand what DTFT really means. And then, if you are able to understand the nature of the signal by looking at its DTFT, then if you pass this signal through the system, we get the output, we find DTFT of Yn as well, and then if you look collectively DTFT of Xn and DTFT of Yn, then you will be able to understand what properties of Xn are enhanced, what properties of Xn are suppressed, like that. So, discrete time Fourier transform is a tool by which we are trying to look at Xn in a different way. DTFT, to DFT I will not go right now. DTFT is a tool with which we are looking at Xn in a different way. Actually, Z transform is also a tool. Between Z and DTFT there is a minor difference. So, what is the formula for DTFT? Write down the formula for DTFT. X of omega is equal to summation
minus
e raised to omega.
minus j.
Is it correct? X of omega is equal to, is from n equal to 0 or from n equal to minus infinity? What the formula specifies? N equal to minus infinity. But we have a signal, we presume signal starting from n equal to 0 at the beginning. We can go for minus infinity also as well after some time. So, e raised to minus j omega n, e raised to minus j omega n, what that provides you the information? E raised to minus j omega n.
Unit circle.
E raised to minus j omega n provides you a point on unit circle. A point on unit circle. For a given omega, it moves with a particular speed. Omega is the angular speed. And for one sample, it moves by an angle omega on the unit circle. E raised to minus j omega n is a point on unit circle moving with an angular speed of omega. What is the unit of omega? Radians, not per second now. Actually, angle has no unit. Angle has no unit. Radians, because it is ratio actually. But radian is not a unit in that sense. Why? Because angle is length of arc upon length of radius. So angle is a ratio. It doesn't have a unit. Radian is the specific entity attached to the angle to look as a unit for us, but not actual unit. So it is radians per, not per sample. It is the angular speed now, radians per sample. So for every n, it moves further by an angle omega. Then xn we have. Right now, we presume xn to be real or single dimensional. Actually, xn can also be two dimensional, which further complicates the thing. Then, what we are trying to extract? We are trying to extract that xn is an infinitely long sequence, or maybe finite also. Then each time, for every n, we are multiplying xn by e raised to minus j omega n. Multiplying xn by e raised to minus j omega n means if xn is one dimensional, then it happens to be like this. For e raised to minus j omega, 0 is this. For all omegas. Then for a particular omega, we have a unit circle. For omega equal to say pi by 4. For n equal to 1, it will come here, this will be point. So this would be the travel of e raised to minus j omega n for omega equal to pi by 4 in this manner. Here, 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 in this way. E raised to j omega n will move in this manner. For some other omega, it will move in this manner. Right? Then we are having summation. Summation of what? xn e raised to minus j omega n. So xn is the multiplier. Xn is a one-dimensional real number. Therefore, what we will have? If my xn is 3, if x0 is 3, if my x0 is 3, then x0 e raised to minus j0 would be this. Or if my x0 is 2, this. If my x1 is 1.5, if my x1 is 1.5, then for omega equal to pi by 4, I will have this point. Likewise, I will have different points for a given omega, and all those are to add up. All those are to add up, and they will add up in a particular value. They will add up in a particular value, which can be anywhere. What happens? This point, and if I have this point, these two cancel. This point and this point, when I add, I get sum. What is the sum? Something like this. This is my answer. It is two-dimensional addition, like with traditional you can say, and I get some value. So for every omega, are you getting me? For every omega, I get a value. For every omega, I get a value. Then there is a very simple thing. If ever, since what I am having, e raised to minus j omega n is moving in this particular manner on this circle. Therefore, only for those omegas for which the product xn e raised to minus j omega n yields me a point that for all n's, those are in single direction. E raised to minus j omega n is moving. So if xn is 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, in this manner, what happens? The net sum is in most of the cases is quite negligible for many omegas, whereas only for those omegas, suppose if I have xn is equal to x0 is equal to 1, x0 is equal to 1, x1 is equal to 0, x2 is equal to 1, x3 is equal to 0, let us say I have this sequence x0 1 0 1 0 1 0 like this, or 1 0 minus 1 0 1 in this manner. So what will happen now for such sequence? For such sequence what will happen? If omega is equal to pi by 2, for omega equal to pi by 2, what will happen? x0 e raised to 0 is 1. x1 into
0.
e raised to j minus pi by 2, but that being 0 is 0. Then x2 into minus e raised to j pi by 2n.
Plus 1.
That is, this point will move here, that is minus 1 into minus 1. That would be plus 1. Is it clear? So for omega equal to pi by 2, if I have such infinite long sequence, for omega equal to pi by 2, I will get net sum as infinite. And for other omegas, there is a chance that I would get approximately 0. So what we are trying to extract, the discrete time Fourier transform is an attempt to search, that particular component in xn. Actually, again it is a very complicated discussion. This xn I can think to be comprised of. This xn I can think to be comprised of sum of few partial sequences. Xn, see, it is for me to think of. I can think of two sequences x1n and x2n such that their sum is equal to xn always. Are you getting me? I can think of two sequences x1 and x2n. If I can think of two, I can think of, the moment at which I say I can think of two, x1 also I can think of two, x11, x12. x1 also I can think of two, x111, x112. So by that way, I can think of xn to be comprised of infinite partial sequences. Xn to be comprised of infinite partial sequences. And what I am trying to do, each of these partial sequences consists of a movement which is exactly in the opposite direction of e raised to minus j omega n. And the amplitude may vary. So the discrete time Fourier transform is an attempt to identify the magnitude of the component, or to be more particular, a relative magnitude of the component which exists in xn and moves with the angular frequency of omega. I am trying my level best to simplify and explain to you. It will take time for you to understand it exactly. Discrete time Fourier transform is an attempt to look to a particular component in xn which is moving with an angular speed of omega. So every xn is to be looked as summation of infinite sequences. If there is one sequence x1n, x2n, x3n, x4n, right? x1n, x2n, x3n, or I can say that the moment at which the index is an integer, I get a field. I am trying my level best to explain. The moment at which the index is an integer, I get a feel that those will be finite sequences, finite in number. I write a new term. Which you may not have heard anywhere, which you should not tell to anybody. X omega n means we are now deviating from the convention that this subscript to be integer, this subscript to be non-integer, this subscript to be continuous variable is giving me a field. What field is giving me? Is giving me a field that xn is now comprised of infinite subsequences, and x omega n is that particular subsequence which is moving with an angular speed of omega. To be more precise, this must be a constant k omega, or this is actually x omega, a constant. For DFT I can explain it in a better way, but sometimes the meaning of simple language cannot be understood unless otherwise one is exposed to a complex thing. What is discrete time Fourier transform? Discrete time Fourier transform is a mapping between x of n to x of omega. Then x of n is thought to be comprised of infinite subsequences. But the infinite subsequences, what those are? Those are x of omega n. X of omega n is x of omega. So it is how it is moving. It's not actually x of omega. I will just rewrite. X of omega n is x of omega e raised to j omega n. As again I am stating now, I am teaching but I am not sure what you are learning. Xn is to be transformed to x omega in such a manner that this xn is comprised of infinite such sequences. X of omega n is a sequence. when this is omega, I'm deliberately refraining myself from using omega and using this subscript as an integer. So she must time. So let us we complete this complicated thing to some extent, and then we shall find out. So x omega n is being specifically used to indicate that I am having infinite such sequences. One sequence corresponding to a particular value of omega, which is a continuous variable. One sequence corresponding to a particular value of omega, which is a continuous variable. And I am looking at this xn. I am looking at this xn to be comprised of different such subcomponents, with each subcomponent moving in this particular manner. Means I can say that I have a signal which moves always on unit circle with some scaling. X of omega n is a signal, or is a sequence, or is a discrete time signal which is moving on an enhanced unit circle or on a constant amplitude circle, constant radius circle in a particular way. So I am trying to find out in what way these amplitudes are for different omegas. And I find that for those signals which are moving, which are not having much variation, I find that for high omegas, high omega is near pi and low omega means near 0. So for high omegas, I find that x of omega is less. For low omegas, x of omega is more. The problem occurs here because it is difficult to explain the subsequences in terms of, for omega equal to omega 1 and next omega is omega 2 is equal to omega plus delta omega with delta omega tending to 0. That we can't explain. Therefore, now to simplify, I can look, it is an attempt, we may not get the exact things. I can look x of n to be comprised of x 1 lakh subsequences. 1 lakh is just a figure which is larger. 1 lakh subsequences. So I have x1n, x2n, or x0n, x2n, till x99. And what is each this subsequence? Each of these subsequence is always a sequence